What's up, guys? Welcome to a season preview video on the Milwaukee Bucks today. I was planning on doing one today regardless, and just about 10 minutes ago as I am recording this, Milwaukee have now signed Giannis Antetokounmpo to a 5-year supermax deal, which very much changes, it doesn't not very much change, but it adjusts Milwaukee's future, it reassures them, and it gives them a much solid 5 to 6 years in which we can know that this team is going to be one of the top teams in the league, and that is something that I will adjust in this season preview video. But before we jump into the video, if you guys enjoy the content, feel free to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel, and feel free to follow me on other socials down below. And let's get into the season preview for the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, so before we get any further, let's take a look at what the Milwaukee Bucks did in the offseason. They obviously had a fairly active offseason. Going out was Eric Bledsoe, he trade to the New Orleans Pelicans, George Hill, he trade to the Oklahoma City Thunder, Wesley Matthews via free agency to the LA Lakers, Robin Lopez left via free agency to Washington, Sterling Brown left to Houston, Ilyasova was waived, and then Marvin Williams retired. Didn't really have any high draft picks. Jordan Nwora came in at pick 45 and Sam Burnell at pick 60, which came via the Pelicans, and then they brought back Pat Connaughton on a new deal, but that was a weird one because he was rumored to be one of the pieces going to the Kings for Bogdan Bogdanovic in that trade, or sign and trade I should say, that then fell through because Bogdan Bogdanovic had said that he didn't want to go to Milwaukee and he had never agreed to that, and Milwaukee and Bogdan could not come to an agreement, and so Bogdan ended up then signing an offer sheet with Atlanta that the Kings did not match. And so it looked like on that night that the Bucks got Jrue Holiday that they were also about to get Bogdan Bogdanovic, but that did not happen. And so this Milwaukee team obviously still improved with the addition of Jrue Holiday. However, they didn't get Bogdan Bogdanovic, and that would have been a big piece for them. I still think Pat Connaughton and even Vincenzo at that shooting guard spot is good. But if they had Bogdan Bogdanovic, they would have been talking about this team a little bit more differently, specifically on the offensive end, having another elite player than you would have. Jrue Holiday is very good offensively, Giannis is very good offensively, Middleton is very good offensively, and Bogdan Bogdanovic, who's a very good three-point shooter, which this team needs to put around Giannis, which we'll talk about in a minute. But then on top of that, as far as additions went, they also added a new backup point guard to replace George Hill and DJ Augustine on a 3-year deal, $21 million. I think that was a good deal, as DJ Augustine is someone who's been starting the last couple of years over in Orlando and has proven he's a good point guard in this league. Low-end starter, but good shooter, good from deep, crafty, fairly good dribble. Not very great in the size department and lacks a little bit on defense, but good offensively. And they signed some good role players. They signed Bobby Portis to a 2-year deal worth $7.4 million to be their backup center. They signed Bryn Forbes on a 2-year deal for $4.7 million with the experience and leadership qualities he'll bring from the Spurs with some good shooting. And they signed Torrey Craig from Denver on a 1-year deal worth $1.7 million. I think that one goes under the radar. I really like Torrey Craig's game. I know he's not great offensively, but as a wing defender, he is very, very good, very tenacious, lots of high energy, good rebounding. So I think that'll play a big part for them, especially in the playoffs. Having someone who's got really good wing defending off the bench is something that was important for this team. And then someone who might not play as much, but Nick Stauskas being signed 1 year for $2 million. Really, really good shooter. Don't know how much he'll play, but nonetheless a very good shooter, which is important for this team. And so, here's the thing for me with this team. Obviously, this team is going to be built around Giannis, right? And we keep saying Giannis needs to get a better shot. Giannis needs to get a better shot. It's hard to win without your main guy having a good shot. And that is very, very true. But he doesn't need to be a great shooter. He just needs to be able to have people not have to defend him like they defend Ben Simmons, where they just sit in the paint, right? Because then it's hard to drive and have people crash down and create openings to create open shots in the perimeter. But if you can have someone have to come out and guard him a little bit, then you have now Jrue Holiday, Dante DiVincenzo or Pat Connaughton, Chris Middleton, and Brook Lopez shooting, as well as off the bench, whoever doesn't start of DiVincenzo and Pat Connaughton, DJ Augustine, Bryn Forbes, Nick Stauskas. Torrey Craig, Bobby Portis don't really fit that mold. But that's just to look at. They're filled with a bunch of shooters. And that's I view this similar to how teams have been built around LeBron. Obviously, LeBron's a better shooter than Giannis, although not an amazing three-point shooter, but obviously much better. And much better, obviously, from mid-range and a very good post-up game. But it's always been LeBron, as good of a passer as he is, around a bunch of shooters to then get the secondary guys open shots. And LeBron's always been a playmaker first. Now, Giannis obviously doesn't have that level of passing, but he's improved in that department, and that's where this team needs to go. And it to be Giannis draws people in, get into the basket, and can kick out for open threes to everyone else on the team. And they're starting to build that now. And they've also added to what was already a very, very good defense. Eric Bledsoe obviously is gone. He was a very good defensive point guard, but Jrue Holiday is just as good defensively, a very good perimeter defender. And then you have Middleton, who's a very elite defender. You have obviously Giannis, who's in there for Defensive Player of the Year conversations every year. You have Brook Lopez, who's a very good interior defender. And I have Torrey Craig off the bench, who's a very good perimeter defender, or wing defender, pardon me. And Bryn Forbes, who's also very good defensively. And DiVincenzo can offer some good defense as well. And so, this team is very good defensively. The addition of Jrue Holiday is going to be very important for this team. It takes a lot of the playmaking and ball handling responsibilities away from Giannis. Obviously, Giannis will still do that a lot because he's the focal point. But it allows Giannis to get more involved in some cuts, involved more in some post-up play. It allows him to vary it up a little bit and not have all the focus be on him, because Jrue Holiday can be the ball handler, can be the creator, can be the man who runs the offense, so to speak. It allows Giannis to get in some more varied scenarios and not have to always be on the ball creating. He can make some cuts, he can also some ball movement, get in and get to the rim. It makes it a little bit more easier for him to then score with Jrue Holiday and then also Chris Middleton. So they have two arguable borderline all-stars on that team now, alongside Giannis, and not just the one. And then obviously still the good shooting of Brook Lopez, the good shooting of DiVincenzo, Pat Connaughton, Augustine, Forbes, Stauskas. So a lot of shooting on that team, with Torrey Craig being able to come in off the bench and play that with a wing defense role in behind Chris Middleton and Giannis Antetokounmpo, playing in that 3-4 role. Obviously Torrey Craig doesn't have the length of Giannis, but he can play that role. And so, with that being said, like I mentioned, Jrue Holiday is going to be very good for this team, dynamic offensively and very good defensively. Thing is, for him, they gave up a lot of assets for him in first-round picks and pick swaps. I believe it was 2 future firsts and 2 pick swaps to the Pelicans, and so, as well as obviously Eric Bledsoe. And he's only got a year left on his contract, so that could prove to be problematic if he decides to leave. He is 30. He averaged 19 points a game last year. He's still playing well, but him leaving at the end of the year after giving up that much for him could be problematic. But it'll be very good this season for them, no doubt, and could prove to be valuable for a few years down the line if he resigns. Chris Middleton, still a very good defender, only age 29. Good length still at the 3 spot. Very good defensively. I think he's underrated defensively. However, he's had moments in the playoffs last year where he didn't look like he was as good, and like he just didn't perform well in the playoffs. Now, he did have a couple of games when Giannis was injured where he really stepped up and played well, but they're going to need him to be consistent and to be an all-star in the playoffs for this team to go far. Giannis, don't need to talk about Giannis. Great defensive player, great at getting to the basket, great playmaker. Needs to improve a little bit of passing and shooting, and he's going to be one of the best players to ever play the game. And then enough said. Brook Lopez, good interior defense, and still a good 3-point shooter, although he did have a bit of a down year last season. But that's Brook Lopez, and he's still very good. As far as the contracts go with this team, it is an interesting one still. Chris Middleton is still on his max contract, in which he has 4 years left from which they signed him a season ago, last year as a player option. And then, as I mentioned at the start of the episode, Giannis Antetokounmpo, as of about 30 minutes ago now, has signed a max deal, for a supermax, so he will be there for another 5 to 6 seasons. Jrue Holiday is getting $26 million next season, and then has a player option to opt out next season, so he could be around for another 2 years, or he could opt out. Brook Lopez still has 3 years on his deal that was initially 4 years, $48 million, that was signed a year ago. And then Pat Connaughton has 2 more years, and then player option. Then DJ Wilson, who's still on the bench, could opt out in the year. Portis is a 1-1 on the team option at 3.6 and 3.8 million. John Lewis still kicking around off the bench as well for some big help. He's got 2 years as well. And then they have a lot of one-year contracts here. Spencer Hawes, Thomas Antetokounmpo, Troy Craig, and Justin Patton, Nick Stauskas. Not all of these guys might be on the roster, but nonetheless, that's the contract situation. They're currently at $142 million for this upcoming season as far as payroll, so they are a fair bit over the cap, but it's kind of typical for a team that is going to be as good as they are and competing for a championship. But yeah, as far as their one guards go, you're going to have Jrue Holiday and DJ Augustine being a 1-2, which is a very good point guard tandem. At the shooting guard position, you're going to have DiVincenzo, Bryn Forbes, and Pat Connaughton, which is very strong. Your small forward position is mainly going to be around Chris Middleton and Torrey Craig. And then you have Giannis at the power forward position. You could see DJ Wilson picking up some power forward minutes. I think Torrey Craig is going to soak up pretty much all of those minutes, with Giannis or Middleton also being mainly on the court, but DJ Wilson will probably get some minutes as well. And then you'll see Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis at the center position. So I think it's a very strong team again. So they've improved their shooting around Giannis. They've improved their point guard so that Giannis doesn't have as much responsibility with creating the offense and setting up his teammates. He can get a bit more involved in the post and the low post and working on his post game on making good cuts to the basket and scoring in that way. It opens his game up a little bit, which I think is good. And so that's kind of how I see this Milwaukee team. I think this team is finally built in a way that they have enough shooting, and I believe Giannis is going to make enough improvements, not necessarily in his shooting game, but in his ability to pass and create and maybe get involved in the low post and cutting a bit more now that Jrue Holiday is on the team, that I think this team is finally going to get to the NBA Finals. However, I don't think this team is going to win a championship. I have the Lakers as my favorite to repeat. However, I definitely believe that this Milwaukee Bucks team can get to the NBA Finals this season and will repeat as the 1 seed. So that's my thoughts on the Milwaukee Bucks all-season and upcoming season. If you guys have any thoughts or opinions, feel free to let me know down below. And if you guys enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And thanks guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.